Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm declaring my independence. Independence from what? Why, negative thoughts and energy, of course. Chief among them, hate, division, and fear. You see, I know that we're all one, and together we can solve any problem, save our planet and each other. Please, join me as we come together as one and choose a better way to be. So now, let's begin with my independence report. And welcome to the show, everybody. You need to take a cough drop, young man. You're listening to my Independence Report. My name is Kevin McDonald, and today we've got a great guest for you, and I hope that you'll stay for the entire time, or show up. That would be good. We have Renee Klause here, and we have Matt Shea here, of course, Matt the author, and Renee is, we're going to talk today a lot about her and her life lessons and who she is, because Matt brought her to me and gave us the opportunity to talk with her. I guess I have a mouse in my pocket because it gave us the opportunity. And so I'm going to have Matt introduce Renee, and we'll see where this goes. I think it's going to be a great show. So, Matthew?
Kevin, when you first explained to me about my independence report, I wanted to hear more. It's about uniting. We're all one, and about people that make that extra effort to make life better for others, to encourage one another. And when that was explained to me, all I could think about was Renee, and I'm very glad that our opening week that we were able to get her on. I've known her for many years, and she was constantly giving herself all directions. And Renee, it's wonderful to have you here, and why don't you tell us about yourself?
Thank you. Oh, well, let's see. I started out in Canada. I was born in Vancouver, Canada. So I'm one of these normal people that end up moving out.
So you're from Canada, eh?
Yes, yes. If I'm up there long enough, I sound just like that.
Oh, well, that's really cool.
Yeah, but all my family is there. I'm the only one here in the States. I can't seem to go back, but I do love living here. I love living in this area here in the Seattle area. But actually, we moved to California and in Los Angeles area, and I grew up there till I was about 13. Let me see. Then I moved everywhere. I've been all over the place. Do you want me to name all of them?
You can name a few.
Okay. Well, I've lived in 4 countries. When my mom was divorced when I was very little, but when I was about 13, she married a medical doctor, and my life started changing really for the better. It was really great. He was a good man and changed our lives tremendously. But because of that, I was able to go to college in England. Went there a year and a half, and I loved that. It's difficult.
What part of England?
Right near London.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, so that was a wonderful experience. My mom decided I should go somewhere different because my last year in high school, I got my heart broken, and I couldn't seem to get over it. So she thought it would be a good idea to give her a big change. And actually, the tuition and airfare was less than going here at the time. I don't know now. But it was a wonderful experience, and it got the travel bug in me, that's for sure.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. So you were traveling, and you got through school, and what was your major in college?
It was psychology, child psychology, and fine arts. And I ended up graduating in fine arts with a minor in psychology, and I was planning on being an art therapist. But at the time...
What is an art therapist?
Well, you in the psychology area, when you have children, particularly going to a counselor, and they're unable to describe how they're feeling or express themselves, you give them some paper and crayons, and they draw away, and usually you get a lot of information from those pictures.
Oh, very nice. Mm-hmm. Very nice. So you how did you apply that when you got out of school?
Actually, I didn't end up doing that.
Well, it's interesting because most people end up doing something totally different because they just kind of fall into it than what they go to school for.
Yeah, well, it's gone full circle, but we'll get there. I ended up doing photography, actually. I did a lot of high school photography, and that was good for a while. I did their portraits, and I really did enjoy the interaction with them. But the money wasn't great, and it was too much traveling. I'm not a driver. I don't like driving.
Oh, okay.
So it was too much driving, especially in Los Angeles. It was, anyway. But from that, I ended up looking in a floral shop one day, and I thought, man, I would love to be a designer. I wish I could just take care of the plants, anything, you know. And as I stared at that floral shop, I had to drive by every day when I went home. I decided that was going to be a goal someday, and sure enough, when I lived in Carson City, Nevada, I decided to apply to the biggest shop there. I thought, well, they'd have something for me to do, and sure enough, that's what they had me do. They took care of the plants, and I added gifts to the plants. A lot of times we would tie a teddy bear to it or chocolates to them and do all these things. And eventually, luckily, they decided I was interested enough. They started teaching me. And so I got to do the small bud vases, the few flowers in them, the rose, or, usually it's just a few flowers. That's why they call it a bud vase. And from there, I just kept going.
So how long were you in the floral industry? My ex-wife was in the floral industry, and it's a hard way to make a living.
Well, yeah, but I loved it. So I would do that when I didn't have a job in the school system. But as far as the floral industry, I started probably in about, 1980. Yeah, somewhere in there.
So how did the two of you meet? Because Matt is really taken with you because of the work that you do and the person that you are. So let's talk about that a little bit. Matthew, how did you meet?
I met her. I recognized her at a church service where she was singing, and she sings comparable to, if you remember Mary Hopkins, she did Those Were the Days, My Friend.
Oh, you're dating us now.
Yes. Well, she came from that avenue as far as my 10 ears are concerned, and very impressed with that. And then I also noticed that the church was greatly decorated, the floral arrangement. And guess who got credit for that?
Oh, that was you.
Yes, I've been doing that for many years. I've done the churches almost anywhere I end up going because they usually need somebody. And I've done hotels and banks and personal, like for custom work in homes and things like that. And yeah, that was probably me.
I recall visiting your family up in Canada, and somewhere we were in a living room, and I couldn't help but stare at the mantelpiece. You know, Renee did that, don't you? Sure enough, I believe it.
Yeah, they kind of spread out everywhere I go. It's usually something somewhere.
So what has got you excited about doing that and to helping people and doing the things in church that you do? And I also understand that you work with the homeless people and with the homeless, with homeless people and volunteer, and you give of yourself, you give of your time, you give of who you are. Where did that come from?
My own experience, knowing what it feels like to be in those positions. I was nearly homeless myself when I went through a pretty serious divorce and ended up not only injuring me, but I ended up homeless. And so I had to live in a trailer that a friend had. I lost my car, I lost my house. I put a lot of effort and everything into it. So I know what it feels like to lose everything. And I can really relate. So these people are just, the same as me. There for the grace of God go I.
Yeah,
that's pretty much where it all comes from.
Well, that's awesome. You've been doing that for a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, pretty much as much as I can remember. Yeah.
So how did you get into now, Matt? Talk about how she got into working with you on the covers of your books and getting into the artistic aspect of life.
As I got to know Renee, and of course, when you meet Renee, you are going to meet a lot of people, and not just at the church. You're going to meet them in the community, and here and there, somebody would have artwork that Renee had done. And somebody looked at me and they said, we think your book covers would really have a nice touch if Renee would do it. And so we got you to do one. And after that, you've done all of them.
Well, yeah, it was a little scary. I'd never done anything like that. In fact, all the work I do, I've never done before. It's all an experience and an experiment as well.
So where did that come from? Because a lot of people are not comfortable stepping out of their comfort zone and trying something new. They get comfortable with where they're at, and they just don't want to. They're scared to death to do something else. Where did that come from? Did that come from your mom and dad? Did it come from your background and moving around so much and stuff?
Well, I suppose the experiences in life, yes, but my mother, she everything she did, she touched gold. I mean, it went to gold. It was crazy. And I saw her always trying different things, and she was an interior designer, and she started classes for that at age 50. And so,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so watching her, even though I was jealous, everything she did was just great. And then I learned, which really shocked me, that she was artistic too. I mean, I have a painting in my living room of a watercolor in Puerto Rico, which is another place I lived. And she did a scene there, and I loved it. And I had no idea she was artistic as well. She just was more on the technical side, which I am not.
So what got you to stand in front of a canvas and start drawing and painting?
Well, of course, in my degree, I had to do a lot of that.
Uh-huh.
I had to, and I did okay. I got some A's, but that was more in the photography field. I always wanted to paint. I just like the feel of it. It's just an experience you can't describe unless you're doing it. And the brush on the canvas and the paint and all of that, it's just the way it feels. But I never did any painting until about 4 years ago, and I saw a gallery open where I live, and a lot of people were in there, and I thought one of these days I'm going to go in there and see what's going on. And they were having a reception for some new artists. And so I went in there this one evening and found out that it was a whole club. And I thought, man, I bought myself an easel 4 years ago just to look at it, I did look at it a lot, thinking one of these days you're going to get used. So finally, I joined the club and got started, and I sold some pieces my first year. I was in shock.
Really? Well,
Yes.
Good for you. A lot of people who paint and stuff, they never sell anything.
Well, it isn't easy, that's for sure.
Something that really threw me is I would go to local cafes that have displayed your artwork, but some of the stuff I could tell, no, that's Renee. But there would be other stuff. You did that. They had absolutely nothing in common with the exception of standing out. You're diversified.
Well, I don't like doing one style. I don't like doing realism very much, but my favorite really is Expressionism, which is a type of abstract. Abstracts are generally have no real subject, with their color and their shapes and all that. And I love doing that too. But Expressionism usually has a theme to it. It has some kind of, whatever you've got in mind for that particular.
Something that you did out of the blue, because it was a little trendy, you do the one where they find the tall grass and there's an old rusty pickup truck that has some wildflowers growing around it. And you did very well with that.
Yeah, that was actually a class. I decided to get into trying to take a few classes, which I'd never done before. And I took a watercolor class, and it happened to be free, so it couldn't be any better. It was just getting there. And this woman is an incredible teacher. And the second watercolor that I did of a butterfly on a flower, I sold that. And so I had to make some prints of that before I sold it.
So did you have it in the gallery, and that's how you sold it, or?
Yeah, it was showing. It was showing in a clinic or something like that.
You do recognize that is unusual, right?
Well, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I know a person that I was very close to that painted for years and did really nice work, but couldn't sell it at all. And but your work and looking at Matt's, and Matt, by the way, is going to, he's got a website, and I was yelling at him earlier because he doesn't have your paintings on his website and stuff. So he's going to get that done this weekend. I just know it.
I will. I have somebody appointed already. My tail's between my legs. I admit guilt here.
oh, well, I don't push it, I guess.
I would like to point out, Renee, that I have people that write me constantly about my books, and they specifically point out covers that you did. And the two I have right in front of us here now, Judge Alvin Wong and The Best Money Can Buy, those are the top votes for my people out there. They're Renee Klause originals.
It was scary.
So if
Very
somebody wanted to look at your work, are they online? Can somebody go to it?
Yes, they're on Facebook.
Okay.
Artistic Expressions by Renee Klause. So it's a Klause, but Expressions is not with the E. It's just the X. Artistic Expressions by Renee Klause, and you can see a lot of my work. It's not all there. I'm not a techie person. I don't like it. I don't like trying to get my stuff on there, but you have to.
Well, that's good. So if you go to Artistic Expressions on Facebook, you can look at some of your work.
Yes,
it's
all for sale too.
Very good. Now, when we started talking about this, we were going to talk about life lessons.
Yes.
And you all of us sitting here have had some life and have been around for a little while. And when you just talk about life lessons, what specifically are you talking about?
Well, it's generally something that is parallels to an experience that you had. For instance, like about 3 months ago, I go to Canada quite a bit, and I had to get through the border. But however, it was a terrible, terrible one. I'd never waited so long in my entire life. And of course, I've been going up there since I was probably 20 on my own. And this particular time, it was 2 days after New Year's, and I'm driving along just fine, no problems, no heavy traffic, no accidents, nothing. I'm just on my merry way, and all of a sudden, about 2 miles from the border, there's a light, and there's a ton of traffic, and I'm like, oh, well, it must be because they're turning here and turning there, it's a busy time of year. Well, no, it turned out to be 2 miles of waiting at the border. So my thoughts are, what do I do? What do I do? Do I go back to my brothers and wait another day? What do I do? And so I thought, I don't think I can wait. And the sign said wait is 2 hours, and that was a big lie. I'd already waited 2 hours, and I was only halfway there. And I'm like, and so there's one spot where if you're in the right lane, you can turn around. And I happened to be in the correct lane to do that. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm trying to think of things to do, but this is difficult. So I would read. I ate. I had my cat with her. I fed my cat. I took a nap. I got out of the car. I did everything I could think of. And finally I'm inching along. And finally I got to the border, and it took like 3 minutes. And I finally, got to my goal. Well, the whole premise of that is an experience, and I related it to things in life that we're dealing with. Maybe we're going along, we've got our plan, we know where we're headed, and it seems to be going just fine. But all of a sudden, there's some glitch happening, and you're thinking, well, it can't be that bad, and so you'll get through this part, but then you find out it's getting worse and worse, and you're not sure whether to turn around, scrap the whole thing, just give up. But if you have perseverance and you keep heading on that goal, you're eventually going to get there. But you may have to change your plans here and there, just like I did.
Now, can you talk about that a little bit more specifically? What exactly are we talking about? Are we talking about goals in life?
Yes.
Okay.
Goals in life. I mean, if you've got something in mind and you think you've got your plan all set out, which I had other plans once I got across that border that I was going to do, and that was all shot to heck. It was a 6-hour wait. It took me longer to get through the border than it did to drive home. But yes, I'm talking about goals in life, and how I related that experience to goals in life, and how sometimes you have to adjust and change your plan a little bit, and you just, but you can carry on. Just remember that goal is there.
Now, in your frame of reference, what did it mean for you to keep going?
Well, I decided that the alternative of turning back was probably worse. I'd have to wait another day, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to disappoint people on the other end that I was coming home. So it was about just doing what I needed to do, basically.
To persevere.
Persevere. That's what it was about.
Well, but persevere in what? You're dancing around the question.
I'm sorry.
Because we all.
Let's say
go ahead.
with my painting. Okay.
Yeah, good.
With my painting, I decided I wanted to try, and I decided, okay, I got my easel out there for years. Literally, I bought one and just looking at it. Well, finally one day I get on that track and I get into that group, and the group helped encourage me to try, and I'm just doing a little bit of what I knew. However, I knew I needed to do a whole lot more than that. And I started watching videos, and I started asking questions. I started getting help and I joined another group where they we get together once a week and we critique each other's work. And so that's getting on my goal of being able to pursue good work. In my mind, what good work is, that's relative too.
Now, what sets you apart a little bit is your willingness to go join a group, to go buy an easel, even though it's sat there for 4 years, to think about what you're going to do next, but then to take the added steps. And what I'm trying to get at here is what separates you. Why did you do that when so many people will go and buy? I have a close relative. He's a little younger than me. He's my son, and he's bought 5 different guitars. And because every once in a while he gets a wild hair and he says, "I'm going to learn how to play guitar." Well, they sit there. After what is it that kept you going to go to the groups and then not only that, but you were successful at putting that together?
Well, I guess the thing is you have to have the desire first. I mean, you really have to have a strong desire, and then realize nobody's going to do it for you. I mean, nobody's going to put that brush in my hand. And so I get to the point where, what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is the same old, same old. Are you going to live life? You're going to have a good experience? Or are you going to try something new and be brave? That was what my first life lesson was about.
I'd like to go a step further. You've had people that wanted something, but they weren't quite sure. And after talking with you and seeing the wide variety you do, together you sort of brainstormed. You came up with something tailor-made for the specific person.
Yes, you're talking about the first anniversary wedding card that I made.
I was going back further than that. You
really?
had done a beautiful one. It was a long rectangle one that, among other things, had a bicycle and a shoreline.
Yes. Well, you ask questions. You ask them, what are their colors, first of all? What's their style? What is the purpose of what they're wanting? And that person, that was a 3-foot long painting. of a fellow looking out over the ocean. I'd never done this before. I said I'd do it. I'm like, are you
did
crazy?
it very well.
And well, videos help. Trust me, YouTube helps a lot. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and each step I had to figure out how to do a sunset and how to do the clouds, and then I had to figure out how to do the mountains, and I had to figure out how to do the ocean. Each step as I went, I watched probably 15 videos until I felt like, okay, I think I can try this now. That's how I did it.
At present, you're doing a project.
Yes, I'm doing this is a freebie. It's 46 by 30 inches, naturally. So, it's for the community where I have volunteered at the clothing bank, and I'm always taking things there for household or clothing or whatever. It's just a great place for so many people use it. And I've eaten a lot of meals there too, and I decided that their walls were bare and they needed something. So I found a canvas at a thrift store that was huge, and I thought, this is what they need, something huge. But I didn't know what I was going to do yet. But I just figured they needed something on their walls, and I was my thank you for their service. And so currently it's got rocks, real huge boulders. In the front, there's going to be a guy sitting looking out over a lake. Then there's mountains and a big tree next to him. And it's to be an inspiration, a serenity type thing. But I'm going to have some kind of encouraging verse on it, a quote of some kind, something like, keep your face to the sunshine and you cannot see the shadows, things like that.
That's pretty cool.
You had just said something. Thank you for your service. When I was first getting to know you, you were collecting a lot of aluminum during the days when it was still worth a little something. And we packed my pickup truck because that was converting into a donation for your church.
Yes.
You were thanking them for what you've received.
Yes, I used to do that a lot too.
You used to collect aluminum cans?
Yeah. Yeah, I got
but the
help
money
from
was
that.
paid forward.
Yes, it was to give for an offering for specific things for our church. Yeah, it was just a little extra way to make money. That's before the painting.
But you always had something positive. You were always paying forward. You always had your way of expressing yourself, saying thank you. Here's back at you.
She still does,
Yes, she does.
Still do it. Well, one of the things I do at church is called God's Closet. And that's another clothing bank. And what we do is it's open to the community. Anybody can come, and they can come in. It's mostly for children, but all the way up to high school, and not so much for the adults because we collect the children's clothes and from babies on up. And people can come in, and we set all these tables, probably about 20 tables up with the ages on each table, and they can come in, and for $1 they can have 2 bags full of whatever they can stuff in there, and that's one of the things that I help with.
Well, that's really interesting that you, and that's for kids,
Mostly for children, yes.
And what church is that?
Well, it's in Des Moines. It's called the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Oh, very nice. Very
Yes.
nice. They do a lot of good work there, from what I've heard.
Yeah, we're always doing something.
What I admire about that church is throughout the week you open up to the community. You will have game night where people will come in to play chess, checkers, whatever. You'll have movie night, all the popcorn you want. You'll have a Bible study. You will have people reading stories. It's a 3-ring circus. It's nonstop. Hey, we got our doors open. Come on and bring the family.
Yes, and every other Sunday they have a breakfast for the community as well.
Oh, that's nice.
There's always a potluck on Saturdays after service,
yeah.
a good one.
Oh, yeah, and I help with that too.
Well, I help too when I show up because I
Yes.
sample everything.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the things I sing. I also help lead out in the song service at the church. So it is a bigger part of my life than I actually even realize. I just do them.
That's something that you enjoy doing, and it's a way to get out into the community because you're a retired person now.
Oh yes, and that was another reason I was able to finally paint after I healed from my surgery in my neck. I decided, well, what better time than now? I don't care what age I am. Grandma Moses started at 80? I'm not even close.
Matt, you're the trivia quiz guy.
I'll go with 80, okay?
Okay.
I'm the art person. No, but Grandma Moses, that's why they called her Grandma. So, but yeah, I decided, what better time now, be useful and see if I can go somewhere with it. And so far, so good. And I'm happy. And, it could always be better. I can always improve. I always see more and more that I need to learn. But that's the life of most people, and especially artists. They're never happy with their own work.
Well, it's the idea that you're continuing to work and to continue to improve who you are and the people that are around you. That it really is. It's very nice, and it's very heartwarming that you do that because you don't have to. There's no rule that says you have to.
No, there isn't. I did a painting for a clinic as well. They wanted some people to put up some artwork somewhere, and I said, well, got the canvases, I'll do something for you. And so I did, and had people come in there and ask to buy it, but no, it's theirs.
Really? Have you thought about doing a full-blown art gallery? And
Yes, I have shown in art shows. I have shown in many art shows. We have one especially where I live here, and I don't know. I shouldn't say the name. I don't know.
Oh, sure you can.
In Burien.
Nobody's listening.
Nobody's listening.
It's just us.
Okay. So anyway, no, they have a huge art show once a year in November, and I'm always a part of that. And last time I sold out of 10, I think I sold 6 pieces.
Now, do you recognize how unusual that is?
No, I don't, because other people sell them too.
They have this art show. It's a form of an auction where just before they sound the gong, people
Yes.
are standing in front of the portraits they're going to buy in a second and a half. And Renee always has a nice little crowd just her fingers inches away from her paintings.
Yeah, I had some of them fighting over one of them last time.
That's a great way to make the news.
See, and that is something because being an artist and being a painter comes easily to you.
No,
It doesn't.
no, it's not easy.
Then why don't you appreciate the gift?
I do appreciate selling things. I appreciate it very much. It's just that I'm so used to my artist friends that sell a lot of their work. So I'm not at that level right now, and I want to get there. But I volunteer for things that are for like, there's a big gala coming up called Artist Trust in Seattle. And I'm going to volunteer there because these are the bigwigs, man. These people sell their work for thousands. And I'm going to be one of the people that shows the work at the auction. They call us models, but, not really. And so we take the work up there and we walk back and forth on the stage and all of that.
So you're going to be like Vanna White.
Yeah. Yeah, I already did it last year.
Oh, was it fun?
Yes, I enjoyed it, and I got to see, the bigwigs, the governor, and all those people are there, and but it's a great cause, and so we get fed. Otherwise, we have to get there.
Well, I'm glad you do it because it sounds like you've got some time to do it, and it's right up your alley. You love being an artist, and you love working with Matt's books and doing his covers. Do you have another cover in the works for his next book?
Well, he's given me a title, but I haven't. What was the title again?
Well, they're working on a 3-on-1 project, but I also have a cluster of other books I'm working on. And so I'm not sure which book is actually going to get done first. I'm giving you a little heads up so you could think of something in the back of your mind. And then when I'm within striking distance a month, I will hit it for you, let you know which one it
might be
is.
more than a month. That one took 2 months.
One of them was a cabin in the woods.
Oh yeah, I can do that.
You can do a cabin in the woods. So
Yes, I can
that's
do
good.
that.
Well, so Matthew, when is your next book going to be done?
I like to think I will have
I'm going to write this down, by the way.
Yes. Well, Eileen, they team up on me. They circle the day in the calendar. They tighten the screws on that. But I will say during the summer months, I'll have a 3-in-1 book out. It'll definitely have and as I've done in the past, I will have a page in there for your artistic expressions with the next website. And
What is it, short stories? 3 short stories?
I'm trying to get a novelty and backed up with 2 short stories. That's what my goal is.
Oh, okay. Well, somebody was just trying to call in, and if you want to call back, I'll put you on the air if you'd like. It's kind of cool. We've got some folks, and I'm really excited because we've been having problems with the Podbean app all week. It's been kicking us off, and it didn't kick us off today. So it's really has been quite sensational. So we're really happy about that.
I would like to say something
Okay,
about Matthew. Matthew, I met him at a time in my life that was incredibly good for me. It was a godsend. He's a godsend for me.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, he's a great guy.
Yeah. And he's been real supportive of just anything I try to do. And now I'm trying to support him with his books, and it's a nice little setup we got.
You have been wonderful, and we've had the good fortune of being on This Week in America a few times. What I get a kick out of the host, Rick Bratton, he will set me aside a bit and go directly to you and about your website, your artwork. You two are buddies on Facebook. I like that.
Yes,
he
we
lets
are.
the whole world know that he's your pal.
Yeah, he does write me notes. That's pretty nice of him.
Well, that's nice that you've got some friends in high and powerful places.
Well, yeah, whatever.
You do.
I do. I
I'm
guess.
holding on to your coattails. Renee.
I'm pretty low key. I don't really think about those things very much.
Well, if you don't, you should, because it's a special thing that you're able to do, and a lot of people appreciate you for your volunteerism, for your skills, for what you're able to do with other folks and stuff, and it's a nice thing for you.
I want to throw something else out there. I like to contribute to food banks when I can. And at one time or another, many of us have had to lean on that. And when Renee has gone, she's done it for group effort because there were many equally needy people, for whatever reason, could not get out there. Renee took it to them, the Meals on Wheels concept. You
That's
keep
true.
yes, you do. You keep gathering and spreading it. You keep very little.
Now, do you get down to do Seattle much with Meals on Wheels?
No,
Oh, okay.
I don't do that. But he's comparing me to that because there are times I've gone, because particularly the one that I know about is incredibly good. I mean, it's crazy how good the food is there, and they throw it out. If it isn't used that week, it's all thrown out. And I figure, well, I'll take some, but I usually have neighbors across the street next door to me. Sometimes Matthew gets some goodies from me, but I don't really keep that much.
A lot of it will end up at the senior center where Ella is. We will have a box there, and it's gone within 2 minutes.
Okay.
Well, so Matthew, do you dumpster dive?
I have. I have honestly done that. Years and years ago, it wasn't out of poverty. It's what I could find here. One time I found a lot of dried firewood before I was camping. I have found furniture unscathed. What's it doing here? Dust it off. Hey, I like this. So,
Well, just so you know how it works in our culture, because our culture is a throwaway culture. And if it isn't
terrible.
pristine, and even like produce and stuff, which is why I was asking if you went to Safeway and dumpster dive, because they throw out produce that is perfectly okay, but you just need to peel off the outside, and the lettuce is fine.
We're
and
spoiled.
things. And we are.
Terrible.
We are.
I have never done it for food, but who's to say that day won't come? Yeah, I'm not above it. If I have to, then I do.
Well, let's assume that day won't come, because
Yes.
you won't have to do that.
That's one of the things that irks me so much about this culture. When I lived in Europe and I lived over there, I mean, we watered down the milk. I mean, I figured the milk, when I came back here, the milk was so strong I couldn't take it. And
Milk?
But yeah, just milk and
Wow.
juices and everything. They water them down because, it's not so readily available. And they're not wasteful. So when I came back to the States, I'm realizing, oh my goodness, people are so wasteful here. And that stuck with me. That was back in 76. It just stuck with me. So I
When
think
you were 5.
yeah. so, so no, I've found it in my apartment. I've found beautiful things, and I'm so mad at somebody for not taking the time to just go. It's a mile away to the thrift store where they could take it instead. So I do. I take it out. Like I found a beautiful leather purse in there one time, and I know exactly who threw it in there. I was ready to tell her, look, can't you just take it to a thrift store? Turns out I used it.
Well, so you kept it for yourself.
It was a leather purse. I mean, come on, nothing wrong with it at all.
That's a really important lesson. I'd like to talk about and change the subject just a little bit
All right.
about another life lesson that you're deeply involved with because of some lessons that you have been given, and you've been given to you from probably the divine, so that you could talk to other people about it.
Well, yes.
And so, talk to us a little bit about what life lessons that you're about now.
Well, at the time being, I decided to do a YouTube channel for romance scams, and I've seen lots of the videos of people that did short video on maybe half an hour of their whole story. But I had that happen to me last year, and it was devastating.
And what we're specifically talking about is a romance scam.
Yes.
Of somebody who claimed to be somebody that they were not, and asked for things that they did not deserve.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they're very, very good. They groom you right from the beginning, and they know exactly what to say, how to say it, and they're very patient. I'll tell you that. There's a lot of details.
Can you describe a little bit about what happened to you?
Well, I was on a dating site, which I usually am not on one, but I decided to go on a Christian one.
Oh,
So,
there
you go.
you would think
You would think.
that would be a great place to go.
But evil people lurk everywhere. So, anyway, I can laugh now. I mean, I'm over it, but it was hard. He came and just said a little hi, and it was very simple. And I'm like, wow, this seems like somebody I'd like to get to know, which 99% of them I didn't want to get to know them, but this person I did. And just very simple. And then I wrote back and said, hi, how are you? Why do you want to get to know me? I don't live very close to you. I don't live close at all. And he says, because you look like a very sincere, sweet person. Of course, you always have a couple pictures on there.
Sure.
And I thought, well, that's nice. I don't know how you can tell if I'm sweet or not, but I guess my smile might make it. So anyway, it carried on from there. We were chatting online for quite a bit. Went to my email address instead. I don't give my real one. I give one that's a fake name for people I don't know.
Good idea.
Yeah, at least I did that right. And then we sent more pictures, and then he started just grooming me in very minor ways, and then started telling me, then he decided, let's talk on the phone. I mean, this going back and forth on the internet forever isn't good enough. So I decided, well, yeah, let's talk. Well, that did it for me. He had an accent that I loved.
Where did he claim? Where did he
bad.
claim to be from?
Well, originally from Israel, which was really cool to me because I want to go to Israel, but he was living in Australia.
Oh, he had an Aussie accent.
No, he had more of a little bit of a French accent.
Oh.
I know.
Oui, oui, oui.
Just slightly.
Kind of like Pepe Le Pew.
Well, his explanation was that he grew up in France, but his parents moved to Israel. And so he was young when he moved to Israel, so he still had a bit of a French accent. I found out what it really was later.
What was it?
He's from Nigeria somewhere.
And why is it that you always get, because I always get these letters from somebody from Nigeria.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The letters kind of go like this. It's like, this is Judge John from Nigeria, and I'm the caretaker of the estate for his master, who had $10 million. And he wants to transfer that money to an American bank. So we'll give you 10% of that, but you need to give us $2,500 up front and all that
That's
stuff.
And it's all in capital letters.
Actually,
and mostly misspelled too.
Actually, I'm just guessing he was from there. He probably wasn't really from there because I don't think they have a French accent. but it's over that continent someplace. But he would never admit it. It's a long story. And so that's what my life lesson is. Well, actually, it's called Love, Lies, and Living Single on YouTube. And you can get the whole, I'm halfway through the story. I have part 1 on through to part 11 so far, and 2 life lessons in there.
And that is on YouTube, and that is Love, Lies, Living Single, Life Lessons.
Yes.
And the reason that I bring that up.
It's 2 separate ones.
Oh, that's 2 separate ones. Life Lessons is separate than Living Lives. Love, Lies, Living Single.
Yeah, that is the story. And then if I put life lesson, that's not part of the story. It's just inserted as something that I experienced.
And the reason that I bring that up and wanted to talk to you about it, because you really did pique my interest. Because there are lots of people that they've either lost their husband or they've lost their wife. They're lonely. Then it's easier to scam somebody when they put the best face on it and say, oh, I'm sure he's just fine and stuff. And it makes it really a lot easier to get scammed. I hope that you didn't lose anything of value, like, I don't know, like your life savings or anything.
No. I didn't lose much, except for, a little bit, but not that much. And then also my dignity.
Well, the dignity is an important aspect as well.
But I got it back.
Well, good. I hope you slapped him one.
This topic you brought up, Renee, we remember Barbara Feldon. She was 99 of the Get Smart show.
Yeah.
And in real life, she went on to write a book called Living Alone and Loving It. And it's sort of hand in hand. This went back about 20 years ago. So you're sort of doing an updated rendition about the trial and errors. And hey, it's not so bad being by myself, but keep your eyes open.
Yes.
How did you come up with Barbara Feldon from 99 from Get Smart? That was in the 60s. How old are you?
Well, she is still with us. She's still around. And I remember hearing an interview from her, and it was comparable. She had written a book about living alone and loving it, and the many Renee reasons why.
Okay.
And so I just had to mention that. You're not alone here.
No, not at all.
No, you're never alone. It's just, and plus the fact that at least for me, I like going to sleep and waking up alone because it's just is a whole lot easier that way. And I don't have to worry about somebody taking care of somebody else and stuff.
Well, my first life lesson is about it's not so bad living alone or being alone, but try something different. Do something new this year. My first one was on January 1st. I was in Canada on a nature walk with my brother, and I decided, hey, I'm going to do one about try something new this year. Be brave.
Absolutely. Now that is something that you should write a book about.
Oh.
Because or Matthew could be your ghostwriter.
That'd be a good idea.
Renee has helped me with my books. She would chime in with an idea, a thought, have this character do that, put a different spin on it. So you got a running start here, Renee.
No, are you paying attention to me, young man? Did you hear what I said? Okay,
to help her, right? Because she has helped me.
Well, no, that's not that's not my intention here. My intention is that this she has got a philosophy of life that is very, very positive and very good for other people to recognize, because a lot of people are not. You get to be our age, and we have been around a little while. We've been around the block once or twice.
Not me.
No, but there's a lot of folks that'll say, "I'm not going to try anything new. I'm not going to." Let me give you a personal example. My father was a executive for Nordstrom's for 30 years. He was a very powerful man in the world of Nordstrom's. talked about him before on the podcast. When he retired, he was also a very good golfer, and golfing was his thing. As he got older, however, he was what's called a scratch golfer, which means that he shot par. But as he got a little bit older, he could no longer shoot par. And then he fell in the garage and broke his hip. And then he couldn't play nearly as well. But he didn't have an outlet. He wasn't willing to try anything new. He wasn't really willing to step outside of the box and to do something that he'd never done before. He's like, nah, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. He ended up sitting on the couch. And subsequently, he ended up passing away. But he was unhappy for the last 5 years of his life because he couldn't do what he used to be able to do, but he wouldn't try anything new. How do you tell our audience, and this is your forum, tell our audience, time to pull up your big girl pants and tell our audience, how do you get past that and do something new when you've been on the planet for 60, 65, 70 years?
No, not that long.
55, 65, 75.
Well,
45, 55, 65. So somewhere in there.
Someplace in there. Okay, that's good. Tell you the truth, it's basically I don't like being bored. And I always, I'll never be bored. I always have projects. I always have something going on.
But there's something different about you being able to walk into a place that you've never been before and make friends and to talk to people. How do you do? Is that something innate in your DNA?
Yes, I guess so. Because I don't think about it. It's just me. I put myself in another person's place sometimes, like, for instance, I was telling Matt, kind of going off a little bit on your question, but I decided this is another new thing I'm going to do. And that is I'm going to start trying to smile at strangers more.
Good for you.
Yeah, anywhere. If they're coming my way or if I'm walking by or whatever, I'll try to catch their eye and I'll smile.
We talk a lot about that on this show because you do not. I drove a bus for 11 years. The impact that you can have on another human being who may not have anybody say hello to them all day long, and you come and talk to them with a smile just to say hello can change their entire perspective of how that day is going for them.
Yes, and I will talk to people in the stores too because usually I'll see they're doing something or looking at something that's close to what I'm looking at, and I'll say, what do you think of that? Or have you ever used that before, or whatever it might be, just to give them a little conversation, because sometimes I can tell they're down.
Yeah.
And
you want to know the biggest reason why Matthew is here doing this podcast with us?
Because he cares.
Because when we went to lunch, when I met him the first day and we went to lunch, I used to be I was in the restaurant business for a long time before I was a bus driver, and I've done a bunch of stuff. I was in the restaurant business for a long time, and I will dictate who I hang out with based upon how they treat the staff. If you treat the staff well and like a real person, you and I can get along. If you treat the staff like crap and that they're less than and that you demand, I really have no time for you.
I wouldn't have stuck around either.
Exactly.
Because I liked how when we went out to eat the first time, he was so sweet. He even served me. I'm like, who does that? I'm like, wow. And he was very nice to the waiters. And I thought, a good guy.
He's okay. He is okay.
The waiters get a bum rap servers, and something that really upsets me, a pet peeve, they came up with this electronic gadget to pay the bill and give their percentage of tips so the government could come in and get their slice of the pie. And no middleman. When this is from me to you, I'm paying honor, don't tax it. I feel offended when they have a way to tax a tip.
Well, but that's it's the government. Did you ever listen to the George Harrison song "Taxman"?
Yes, I have.
Okay, well, see, there you are. That's just but what you can do, Matthew, if you want to get around it, is you can always pay cash.
I do.
Okay.
Yes, he does.
Yes.
And sometimes I say, Well, you're being generous, but that's Matt.
Well, and that's really good, but that's why I was impressed with him, and that's why I opened this up to him, because I want to deal with and work with real positive people like you. I have to tell you, I'm very impressed with you.
Oh, well, thank you. It's my first time meeting you. Wait till you get to know me.
Well, it's very. I really love people that are stretching themselves, doing other stuff, helping humanity, helping other people, doing the right.
Kindness.
Thank you.
Just plain old kindness and consideration. That's all it is.
Yeah, at the end of this podcast, you'll hear me say, "Be kind to each other, because each other's all we've got."
Yes.
There's
exactly.
always an octave of laughter with Renee. Throughout the day, spending time, there's always laughter hitting once in a while.
Well, good. I'm been very impressed with you, so I appreciate it.
I appreciate that very much. My dad used to tell me, "Why do you laugh so much?" I said, "Well, it's your fault."
Well, why not?
I mean, yeah, why not? And he's been amazed by me at times, and I said, "Well, I am your daughter." I mean, there you are.
Oh yeah. Well, and you can teach people a lot of how to be positive, because your life goes a lot easier if you approach it from a fun standpoint rather than if everything is down and dreary and icky and awful. And
one of the things I do is, it's a tough thing to do, but it lifts your life up, and that is forgive those who have hurt you.
No, that's going too far.
It's going too far.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It's not worth holding on to that grudge. It's just not worth it.
Nope.
Because it does change your brain chemistry. Not only your life, but changes your brain chemistry. I like those endorphins. I call them dolphins. I like all the dolphins I can get.
Oh, that's right. And the reality is that if you hold a grudge against somebody who did you wrong, perceived or otherwise, because oftentimes we perceive it to be wrong,
Misunderstanding.
and it's a misunderstanding all the way. And but at the end of the day, all we do is hurt ourselves.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with
care.
them. Well, and even if they did care, it wouldn't matter, because they're not in your.
Yeah.
When you let somebody get in your head, you can't make your own decisions about what's life. What
is
good about life.
Your decisions will be tainted a lot of times just because you're angry at so and so. I for instance, in the club that I was in, the art club I was in, there was a conflict with a woman in there, and I had to just suck it up. I'd compliment her.
Yeah.
She was a little shocked, but
So, and while I've got some people on the line that are listening to the show, I need to do an experiment. I would love for one of you to call in so that you can ask Renee a question, if you would, because I want to make sure that technology is still working as well. So if one of you wants to call in, I would be on. We'll sit here and wait. Okay, somebody.
oh,
I would like to point out that Renee has a wide variety of social groups. She has people from the church. She gets involved with the children's stories sometimes. Your art groups, how you do help with the food bank, the clothing bank, a wide variety of people. People you've known for over 30, 40 years, you might catch up to them.
oh yeah, I've heard from mothers of ex-boyfriends.
Yes.
They've been mad at them for not marrying me. I just, it was not the thing to do at the time.
Well, I'm glad that you have. I'm glad that you have ex-boyfriends and stuff. So,
yeah, saw 2 of them last week.
see, now that's pretty cool.
But they're friends.
Yeah.
I don't hate them. I don't hate them. There's no reason to.
There's an old saying, the best revenge is health, and you are holding up pretty good, Renee, and that's got to get at them a little bit.
Well,
I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, is there anything that you would like to add? But by the way, before we go, a couple things while we're sitting here. couple things. Next week, I'm extraordinarily excited because John Edward is going to be on the show. Yes, that John Edward. He's going to be on the show on Tuesday. And so if you want to tune in to listen to John Edward, that would be just awesome. And Matt is an author over here, and I promise him near the end of the segment every day that I give him a couple of moments to talk about his books and his website. That, by the way, he is going to be busy this weekend because he's going to be putting Renee's paintings on his website. So there. Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to mention a book that I've written recently, my most recent publication. It's called The Best Money Can Buy, and it's a fun story that sort of humbles all of us, where we get to laugh at each other, to appreciate the goodness, the simplicity. More important, that cover, that's a Renee Klause classic. If you go to my website, mattshaybooks.com, I have other books. It leads you to Amazon, a lot of free stuff. You could write me, and I promise to write you back. Thank you very much.
So if you go to Amazon, then that cover's there?
Yes, it is.
Well, see, so there you are. Now you're famous on Amazon as well.
Oh, my.
Isn't that cool?
Wow.
So is there anything that you would like to add? Anything at all that you would like to tell our audience before we wrap up this podcast?
Don't worry, be happy.
Oh, isn't that Bobby Theron?
Yeah.
I forgot to mention she's original, too.
Oh, very good. That's Bobby Theron, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Man, you know, right?
I can't remember who was saying. I just know the words.
He had his guitar, and he let the world know.
Get other people involved in your life. Don't be alone. Find something interesting. Find something new that you haven't done, been thinking about forever, and find a group. Or if you can't find one right away, go on YouTube and find groups. And usually they know of local things going on. Just don't be alone all the time. It's not healthy.
It's not good either.
No.
And it's a waste of life, and
Yes.
it's a waste of your life, and there's no point in wasting your life. You're going to get out of this soon enough as it is, so don't waste it.
Yes. Enjoy your life and get out there.
That's a wonderful way to wrap up this podcast. Matthew, what would you like to add?
And you might want to include about volunteering, because you are constantly extending yourself, and it just makes you happy. It comes back around.
And you make friends. You actually do make friends when you're volunteering. I've got several friends just from that source itself, and get you out there.
Yes.
Well, good. Well, I, for one, am glad that you're out there.
Thank you.
Because it's really exciting. So, by the way, just so you know, next week we've got a full week of a really exciting guest. John Edwards going to be here. We're going to have Girl Power Wednesday, and we're going to be talking to a personal trainer who works with women specifically to help them lead their best lives. And then we've got a makeup artist who's coming in on Thursday. She's extraordinary. She's got 15,000 followers on Instagram, and she's done makeup for people like Journey, Metallica, and she's a makeup artist to the stars. Wow. She's going to be here on Thursday, and then on Friday we'll figure something out. It'll be worth hanging out with us then. So I hope that you spend some time with us. It's great to have you here. And with that, anything either of you would like to add?
You were magnificent, Renee. Thanks for being with us.
Yes, I wouldn't mind mentioning my art site again, if you don't mind.
Not a bit.
Artistic Expressions on Facebook by Renee Klause. Expressions is with an X without the E.
Very good, unless you can't spell, and then doesn't matter. It'll come up anyway.
It'll come up. Okay.
With that, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in today, and it's worked out well. And Podbean, I'd like to thank you for not screwing up today. That's really darn magnanimous of you. So with that, we'll see you next time on My Independence Report. Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other, because each other's all we've got. See you next time on My Independence Report.